Get read across this continent. It is deeply, deeply concerning for those in the centre in Europe. It's likely to change the politics of Europe, particularly if the far right wins. Far-right government may be welcoming Olympians this summer. Katie?
All right, Keir Simmons. Keir, thank you very much. And that is going to do it for me today. Deadline White House starts right now.
Hi there, everyone. It's 4 o'clock in New York. In its very last decision of its term, the highest court in the land handed future presidents a, quote, loaded weapon, in the words of a dissenting justice, aimed straight at the rule of law in the country. The conservative 6-3 majority of the court, half of them appointed by ex-President Donald Trump, 2 others having faced calls for their recusal in this very case, dealt a potentially fatal blow to special counsel Jack Smith's effort to hold the ex-president accountable for crimes committed on January 6th at the insurrection and his plot to overturn the 2020 election he lost. They ruled that Donald Trump and all future presidents are entitled to immunity for official acts that they take during their presidency. To that now infamous question of whether a president can order SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival, the United States Supreme Court said, in effect, yeah, maybe. Regarding Jack Smith's prosecution of Donald Trump, the court is sending that case back to Judge Tanya Chutkan to parse out what is an official act in which Trump is entitled to complete immunity and what is not an official act. And the majority opinion says this, quote, in dividing official from unofficial conduct, courts may not inquire into the president's motives. You mean like the coup? Going on, Chief Justice Roberts writes this, quote, this case is the first criminal prosecution in our nation's history of a former president for actions taken during his presidency. Determining whether and under what circumstances such a prosecution may proceed requires careful assessment of the scope of presidential power under the Constitution. The nature of that power requires that a former president have some immunity from criminal prosecution for official acts during his tenure in office, at least with respect to the president's exercise of his core constitutional powers. This immunity must be absolute. As for his remaining official actions, he's entitled to at least presumptive immunity. What this amounts to, according to the 3 dissenting Supreme Court justices, is that Donald Trump is above the law. Writing for the court's 3 liberal justices, Justice Sonia Sotomayor, issuing a primal scream kind of warning for her colleagues, saying they have dramatically and dangerously expanded the power of the presidency, creating a, quote, law-free zone around the president. From her scorching dissent, quote, the president of the United States is the most powerful person in the country and possibly the world. When he uses his official powers in any way, under the majority's reasoning, he now will be insulated from criminal prosecution. Orders the Navy SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival, immune. Organizes a military coup to hold on to power, immune. Takes a bribe in exchange for a pardon, immune, 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 immune. Even if these nightmare scenarios never play out, and I pray they never do, the damage has been done. The relationship between the president and the people he serves has shifted irrevocably. In every use of official power, the president is now a king above the law. Never in the history of our republic has a president had reason to believe that he would be immune from criminal prosecution if he used the trappings of his office to violate criminal law. Moving forward, however, all presidents will be cloaked in such immunity. If the occupant of that office misuses official power for personal gain, the criminal law that the rest of us must abide by will not provide a backstop. With fear for our democracy, I dissent, end quote. That's where we start today with some of our favorite experts and friends. Former lead investigator for the January 6th Select Committee, Tim Hafey's here. Voting rights attorney, founder of the site Democracy Docket, Mark Elias is here. The senior editor for Slate, the host of the Amicus podcast, Dahlia Lithwick, is here. With us at the table, former top official at the Department of Justice and MSNBC legal analyst Andrew Weissman is here. Andrew Weissman.
So I'd like to pick up on the part that you were reading from Justice Sotomayor because she talks about this parade of horribles. And one of the things that was so revealing is Justice Roberts does not address them. He does not talk about how the test that the majority opinion lays out in any way would give us any comfort that there's a problem. So that the using SEAL Team 6, he just says these are fanciful. He doesn't in any way say why this test of if it's official conduct, it's immune, why everything that Justice Sotomayor is saying is not completely something to worry about. And wait, there's more. The majority opinion says, with respect to the Department of Justice, that part of the criminal case that was brought by Jack Smith is out. Why? Because that is under the take care clause of the Constitution. That is exclusively within the president's power. And so even where there is a sham prosecution, he is immune. Just think about it for a minute. The relationship of the president to the Department of Justice is, even if the president knows and the allegation is it's a sham case, immune.
So let me ask you about things that already happened, because they also seem to write in a hypothetical manner when all of the hypotheticals have, in some ways, inched toward coming to pass. Donald Trump sought to prosecute Hillary Clinton and Jim Comey and others as early as 2017. New York Times broke the story in early 2018 or late 2017. Don McGahn serves as a guardrail against those prosecutions. What does this mean if there's no Don McGahn in a second Trump presidency and he proceeds with doing that?
So the people who are not immune would be the people under the president. They don't enjoy presidential immunity.
But Sotomayor writes about pardons.
Exactly. So there's a.
That's already happened too. I mean, yes. There was reporting in the New York Times that he sought to shoot people at the border, and he promised the Border Patrol Agency that he would give them pardons.
Right. So the normal check, cut the word normal. The president, under this decision, can use the Department of Justice as a weapon and is immune. They have taken that part of the case out, even as they say the allegation is it's a sham. I mean, imagine the hypothetical I've been posing today is, imagine that there's a tape recording of the president saying, bring a fake case against my political rival. I know there's no proof. Just bring it, and I want him prosecuted. Under this decision...
Well, we have that, too, in the perfect call.
Yes.
We have against an ally.
Absolutely. This is not so much of a hypothetical. And the only check would be, which was discussed during the oral argument, would be that the lower-level people would not enjoy immunity. But you already have the president saying, but don't worry about it. I will commit crimes for me because I will pardon you for it. So this is just... It is... I'm going to quote from Nicolle Wallace, which is, this is like the Sixth Sense, which is, the Supreme Court in Russia exists, but none of us think that there's a rule of law there. When you look at this opinion, it
just doesn't know it. Yeah,
exactly.
Mark Elias, we should pull the curtain back on what's actually happening, shouldn't we? People are exploring options to live in other countries if they think they could be targeted for prosecution by Donald Trump, because targeting you or targeting me or targeting Andrew would be an official act based on today's decision.
Yeah, I mean, they could target for criminal prosecution. They could target for administrative investigation, the IRS, the SEC, the EPA. Under this opinion, they could even, engage in physical violence or assassination. And all of that is terribly, terribly troubling in the abstract. But, Nicolle, we're not in the abstract. We're in the reality. And the reality is that Donald Trump has said that if he is elected, he will seek retribution. He has said that if he is reelected, he will be a dictator for at least a day. And there is a team of MAGA extremists who are working on something called Project 2025 and related things to execute and make much more effective Donald Trump's retribution if and when he gets into office. This will not be Nixon's enemies list of a few hundred. This will be Donald Trump's enemies list of several tens of thousands, and the federal government will be his tool from start to finish.
Dahlia, I want to read about how this went down, because lest anyone think we're hyperbolic in our reaction to what the majority decided, the conservative supermajority, where a lot of smart people thought there wasn't any legal reason to take it, and smart people thought there wouldn't be any legal reason for them to side with the president, and then smart people thought there wouldn't be any reason for them to give him absolute immunity. He's done all that. I mean, the court has made a mockery of all sorts of people who thought there would be any respect to precedent or restraint or democracy. And again, don't take my word for it. Let me tell you how this went down, and how Justice Sotomayor handled herself this morning. So this is what happened in court. Chief Justice Roberts came in and said, quote, "I have the opinion of the court this morning." He took a deep breath, quote, "Trump versus the United States." During Roberts' reading of the majority, Justice Kagan was watching Roberts intently, along with Justice Kavanaugh, who was leaning forward in his seat. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson was looking away from her colleagues toward the gallery, her chair slightly turned away from the other members. Roberts proceeded to give 7 reasons why the court made the decision it did, including what Roberts called a lack of precedent and issues that are quite difficult. Said that lower courts didn't provide the above guidance. In Associate Justice Sonia Sotomayor's strong, powerful dissent, this is NBC's reporting, she minced no words about today's opinion, saying, quote, "It makes a mockery of our system of government." She went on to say, quote, "The court gives former President Trump all of the immunity he asked for and more," end quote. "History matters, right?" she said rhetorically, quote, "except here." She took a quick second to look up from the pages she was reading from to glance at her colleagues. NBC goes on to report that if this particular indictment of former President Trump doesn't reach the level of a prosecutable offense, she said this, quote, "It's hard to imagine what prosecution ever would. The man in charge of enforcing laws can now just break them," she said. Ironic, isn't it? She then seemed to make a nod to the political leanings of some of her colleagues on the bench when she said during her dissent, quote, "Why is it a hard question? I don't know. Do you?" She then took the court through a few examples of action she believes the president can now take with his newfound immunity. Order the Navy SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival? Immune. He's the commander-in-chief, she said with snark. With fear for our democracy, I, along with the framers, dissent. That's from our colleagues reporting on how this historic decision went down on this historic day.